Welcome to Run Your Story. I'm Allison Gilliard, and I have the honor of sharing this year's Battleship 12K story. I can't wait for you to meet the founder of the Battleship 12K, Mike, and his inspiring journey of one of my favorite races. Plus, you will not believe what next year's theme will be, and you got to hear it first, guys. So excited. So I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Mike and his run story of Battleship 12K. Hi, thanks for doing this.
My pleasure. It's a great honor, a great opportunity. I appreciate you reaching out.
Oh, absolutely. So, Mike, tell me what your job is with the Battleship 12K.
So I am actually the founder and marketing and communications director.
Wow. That's okay. So how did Battleship 12K start?
Okay. So I used to have a business partner over in Pensacola.
Okay.
And we did a series of half marathons that were in Pensacola Beach, over here in Louisiana, and then eventually one in Gulf Shores, Alabama.
Okay.
And so I was driving I-10 quite often across the causeway there in Mobile.
Mm-hmm.
I kept seeing, the battleship, and it was magnificent. And my dad is a retired Purple Heart veteran from Vietnam, served 20 plus years, retired as a major. And it was kind of a confluence of things. So around the same time that we were doing all of that, Lone Survivor and American Sniper had come out.
Oh.
So Marcus Luttrell and Chris Kyle stories. And being of that generation, I wanted to do something that was big and vocal to say thank you to all of the men and women who put their name on a dotted line to keep us free.
For sure.
Unfortunately, when my dad came back from Vietnam, he did not come home to heroes. Well, he came home to people spitting on him, protesting, calling them baby killers. And all this was a group of young men who had went over there to try and do what they were being asked of doing. And they didn't deserve that. And so there's a lot of military nonprofits out there. I didn't have the wherewithal, the interest, or the knowledge of starting up a nonprofit. But what I could do was I could start an event that would be big and vocal and just over the top, saying thank you to the men and women of our military, our heroes who have kept us free. And so as I kept driving past this battleship to go over there for site visits to Gulf Shores in Pensacola, I kept thinking, man, why isn't there anything here? And so I did some research, and they had like an occasional 5K that would start and then finish at the battleship, come back and go back in,
Sure.
But nothing that went from one side of Mobile Bay to the other. And so I looked into it. I talked to some folks in Alabama, and literally with money out of my own pocket, I started the website. I designed the logo, the battleship logo, and it was literally started on a song and a shoestring. And so first year we had right around 500 some odd people.
That's huge for first year.
Yeah. It was myself mostly, opened up registration at the expo for the Crescent City Classic over here in New Orleans. And I wanted to, again, as I said, I wanted to make an impact. And I knew that the best way to make an impact would be getting a lot of people out there in year one. And so the very first year, for like a promotional period, I had registration at, I want to say registration was $12.
Yeah.
It was the 12K, and so it's $12. I mean, I knew I was.
I love that. That's awesome.
I knew I was going to be losing money, but hey, let's build some momentum, and maybe if we get enough people, we'll get some sponsors, and it'll just grow. And so we did $12 at the opening, and then it escalated up, and then the next year said, okay, well that wasn't feasible, but it gave us some momentum and got it out the gate strong. And so the next year we opened up registration at $19, and I think it was $19.42 because that was the year the battleship was commissioned.
Wow.
And it was always very important to me to, have something that could be pointed to as far as, hey, this is what this is helping to raise awareness around.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, one of the things that we've seen as a huge, almost an epidemic, is veteran suicide, particularly, members of the military who served over in Iraq or Afghanistan.
For sure.
And I don't have the statistics, but I think that it is a much higher rate than the suicide rates of military members who served in other combat arenas or, combat campaigns in previous years, previous generations. Why that is, I don't necessarily have the answer, but I know that it was a problem that became very evident to me. And the statistic that grabbed me really just by the throat was the fact that there was 22 veterans a day committing suicide. And so the first year I reached out to a number of military charities. As I said, I wanted to do something big and vocal and try and make an impact. And again, the best way to help do that is bring some attention and hopefully some funding to the people who are already doing that kind of great work.
For sure.
And so the very first year partnered up with Team RWB, Team Red, White, and Blue, Mission 22, which at the time was really almost a shadow of what they are today. At the time, they were just a photographic campaign. It was a photographer who would go into the homes of veterans who had unfortunately taken their own lives and take a memoir, almost a photographic memoir of their home. So the uniform hanging in the closet, what they had left behind, because what these people had left behind was obviously a lot of tears for those that love them.
Absolutely.
But Mission 22 wanted to capture that in a photographic representation. And so just bringing awareness, making people aware of the number 22 being so significant, and then that there are groups out there that if a person is struggling, that they can reach out to these organizations. And so is Team RDV, Mission 22, and it was an organization out of Texas called the Boot Campaign. And Marcus Luttrell, who's the lone survivor, had partnered up with them, and they were selling combat boots to raise funds to help fund veteran-based programs.
Wow.
And so I bought a pair of boots and I wear them every year at the event. And so they were doing some really great work. Over the years, those charities have kind of swapped out and changed out a little bit due to people that change in leadership or wherever the real emphasis may lie. Currently, this year, it's still Mission 22, still Team RWB, which I foresee as never going away because it is the one that is probably most closely aligned with this event. I mean, Team RWB is there to get people from the veteran community out and active and get them rucking, walking, running. Well, this is a run-walk event, so perfect pairing. And then the third charity partner is America's Warrior Partnership, which is where a colleague of mine who had worked with Team RWB, she went over to America's Warrior Partnership. And that's why I reached out to her a few years ago when we formed that partnership. She has since moved on to the Green Beret Foundation and doing great work over there. But I was very happy to have these three partners because events themselves are not necessarily a great way to raise money on a major scale, unless you have a major fundraising effort team behind it. Perfect example is my company, Fresh Junkie Racing. I have 4 other business partners, and we do events across a number of states: Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, and recently this year, Missouri. Well, some of the events that we do in some of those states are we work as the logistics provider. So we just go out and put the event on for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital.
Oh, wow. Very cool.
But St. Jude has a very robust fundraising team and capacity. And so it can certainly happen, but I specialize in producing events, high quality endurance events that create memorable experiences for people that hopefully it gets them moving, it keeps them moving, it instills a healthy lifestyle. And hey, if we can raise some awareness for veterans and we can raise some funds, that's great. But I make no bones about it. That is not my area of expertise. And so that was one of the reasons that I wanted to partner with some organizations, because they do those sort of things. They usually have someone who is accredited as a certified fundraiser. That's not my area, but I know where to go to find those people.
I love that. Hey, I think that you've already accomplished so much with what you were saying about how you wanted an epic event. That's done. One of the coolest things I love with doing Battleship 12K is watching people run up to the bridge, stop, and take pictures. I absolutely love that. And then, then running down. I mean, it's one of my most favorite races, which I think is why I was so excited that you said yes to this interview, because I was like, I love this race. Like, I love what it stands for. I love seeing people dress up. I mean, it just feels like it just brings us all together as a community to show support. And like you said, bring awareness to where things that I didn't know. When you open up registration way back, it's usually like $22 for like so many. And I'm like right there ready to click. But it's because, as you said, $22. And that is the number of veterans, as you say, that take their lives, 22. And so everything you've done, I think, is amazing. Like, everything has a reason behind it. A number has a reason behind it. And again, as a runner, walker, whoever's coming out rocking, it's so easy for us to sign up and say, yes, I'll do this. But when you, like, as you said, as you've described everything so beautifully, that everything has a purpose and a reason behind it. And I think that is just fascinating. And I thank you for all you've done for Battleship 12K.
Thank you. I'm lucky enough. My dad is still alive. He's 77 years old now.
Wow.
Still is my hero. I still want to do everything I can to make him proud.
Job well done.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Like being the marketing director and the communications director for all of our events, and being responsible for the messaging, the emails that are composed, the look and the feel for each event holds a special place in my heart.
Sure.
But this event, because of the meaning behind it, I'm hard pressed when I'm talking to folks to not get goosebumps. Even now, I founded the event in 2015, was when the first one took place. It started its emotional and mental formation in 13 and 14. Wow. As I was driving past that battleship each time and thinking that, okay, there's got to be something that I can do. We can all do something.
That's right.
Whether that's going out and walking in the Battleship 12K and making contribution to one of the 3 charity partners, whether that's one of the thousands of people that walk in the month of September for the St. Jude Children's Research Hospital and make some tremendous fundraising impact there, or whether it's a guy like me that says, I'm going to start something that a lot of people can embrace. I appreciate you sharing about the stopping at the top of the overpass, because that's one of the things that I like to tell a lot of either the hardcore runners or the people that look at the distance and they're like, 12K it's not a completely unique distance, but it's not the distance that a lot of people are used to. They're used to 5K, 10K, right, half marathon. And so when I've mentioned 12K, why 12K? I'm like, well, if you start on the Eastern Shore and you only walk 10K, you won't get to the battleship. You'll be in the middle of Mobile Bay. So that's the main reason. But 12K is one of the most popular distances when you look at field sizes. I believe it's Lilac Bloomsday and Beta Breakers, which is out in San Francisco. Beta Breakers, I've had the honor to be the MC for it once or twice. It's a race of over 50,000 people.
Wow.
And they go from San Francisco Bay to the breakers out on the Pacific Ocean. 50,000 people is a lot of people. So obviously 12K was a manageable, reasonable distance. And otherwise, as I said, you wouldn't have made it to the battleship. But being able to talk to people about the event and say, look, it's all downhill the first mile, and then it's almost pancake flat. Almost is the one little hill that you talk about that, people run in, people stop and take. But that's the cool thing, is that being a point-to-point race, you can see the battleship from darn near half of the race away.
That's right.
I mean, I'm sure that probably has its pluses and minuses. Like, for a lot of people, they're like, it's right there. Why is it not getting any closer? Right. But, you know,
I can
it's all cool.
I just want to say how excited I am. So I've done this race for several years now, and again, like I said, it's one of my it's anytime anybody asks me what my favorite race is, Battleship 12K is number one. So just absolutely love it. But this year it's really special because you guys are representing Coast Guard. And so my son is a senior in high school and he has applied to Coast Guard Academy.
Wow.
Yeah, so
That's
I had
awesome.
friends as soon as you guys posted about it, the release of the medal and who was going to and everything, my phone was just beaming like crazy because everyone was like, look at this, look at this. So it is just how did you come up with that the branch? Like every year it's a different branch. So how do you decide that?
Well, it was the very first year, it was, I guess you could say the very first year was kind of easy because once you have the brand of the battleship and the font and the colors, that's what your t-shirt's going to be. That's what your medal's going to be. And I was able to grab a really great picture and send it to my medal manufacturer and say, this is what I want the medal to look like. And
Mm-hmm.
that very first year, it was a very, very realistic representation of the battleship. And then the next year, I kind of tweaked the medal and did some cool things with it. But by year three, I said, okay, I can't give, another 1,000 people, many of whom are returning, the same medal again. So I got to start getting creative.
Okay.
And I started looking around at a lot of the military iconic imagery and came across, I think that third year was when I came across an insignia that was basically, it would have been one of the military pins, and it was the anchor with the two stars on it.
Yeah.
And I said, man, that would look like a really sharp metal in like a gold or an antique bronze finish. And it was a naval pin or naval insignia, and that's where that medal came from. And I said, okay, well, we're going to honor the Navy this year, which made sense considering it's a battleship. And then it was, okay, well, now we need to honor each branch of the service. And my dad was, as I said, retired Army major. So that one was going to hold particular significance in my heart. And so we did the Navy the first year, or the third year, excuse me. Then we did the Air Force. Then we did Marine Corps. And the Marine Corps symbol, it would have been outstanding to be able to do the anchor and globe, but that is a registered trademark of the United States Marine Corps. Even the Marine Corps Marathon has to go through a lot of hoops to utilize that as their medal every year. I'm friends with members of the race committee and the race director of that event, and they even have to go through a lot of hoops. I said, okay, well, can't use that, but Devil Dogs, the bulldog, has been an image of the Marine Corps for a number of years, and so we'll go with that. And then I started planning them, number 4, the Army. Again, when my dad, the inspiration of the event, and then the pandemic hit. And we did a few virtual things. We did a virtual challenge kind of that encompassed a lot of our race courses. So you could pick a different distance during the summer of 2020. And I got on, we all had time. So I got on Google Maps and routes and, okay, well, if you went through from like Panama City over to Baton Rouge or vice versa, and Baton Rouge, where we started the Louisiana Marathon and went to the Mississippi Gulf Coast Marathon, came up with these distances. And it was great. It kept people moving. But this event couldn't be virtual. This event is about looking around at the starting line. And for those people who are going to be listening to this interview and aren't aware, we do 2 different colored bibs for our participants at the Battleship 12K. So civilians will get a blue background bib, and members who are active or prior military service get a red bib. And so I have the honor of also being the announcer. And I'll say at the beginning, as we're doing the opening ceremonies, before we get to the national anthem, I'll give a little backstory and explain that this event is to pay homage and to say thank you. I mean, the tagline is a patriotic run to honor those who have served. And so I'll say, I want you guys and girls to look around. And if you see someone wearing a red bib, that means that they are current or prior military service. And so they signed their name on a dotted line they signed a check with their life on the line. And they've given they don't do it for the thanks. They don't do it for the attaboys. but this is our opportunity to say thank you. And so I'm getting goosebumps telling the
That's
story.
right.
And as you look around, and people will see other people with the red bibs, and there's hugs and there's high fives and there's thank yous. And it's just such a special, magical moment for 2,500 people to say thank you to those that are around them. And the members of the military community who I've talked to have said, thank you. I didn't sign up to serve this country for thanks or accolades or even the GI Bill. I did it because of sense of service and duty. But thank you for giving me the opportunity to get the thanks that maybe I never got. And so it's just such a special moment to be able to do that. We couldn't do that with virtual. Like that just, could we have raised a few dollars for one of the military charities? Sure. But could we raise a whole lot more? Could we make a bigger impact? And most importantly, could we say thank you when we came back in person in 2021? Yeah. And so we didn't do the event in 2020, and mainly because we have shuttles. So we bring people from the finish line back to the start. Right. There was no real great way to do shuttles in November of 2020. So we pushed off the event until November of 2021, did it with the Army last year. And then that led us to the Coast Guard this year, to answer your question in a very, very long-winded way. I didn't forget why you asked it. Yeah. And so that's when I started working on the imagery that would be the Coast Guard. And so once again at the Crescent City Classic Expo this year, which is one of the only expos that we'll really attend, because it has enough people there that will come either to New Orleans to run the race, or from New Orleans that will still travel over to Mobile. And that was the hot question at the expo. Like, well, what's the medal going to be this year? So, well, we're honoring the Coast Guard. And when I think of Coast Guard, I think of a Coast Guard cutter cutting through the waves going over the side, and just basically running into the way of danger to protect those. Yeah. And, the motto is always ready. And so that was the image that came to mind. And I just went looking for that image online and then sent it to my medal company. I said, this is what I want. And they delivered. And it's a beautiful medal. Yeah. The challenge coin each year,
which is another favorite of my thing. So, oh man, great job with that.
Thank you. I never had the privilege of exchanging challenge coins with, I never had the ability or the honor to actually have a challenge coin for a unit that I served in. I had a very, very brief military career because I did want to follow in my father's footstep. And while I was waiting for clearance to go to basic training, was in a bicycling accident. And that was the very abbreviated end of my military career. Yeah, I broke my neck riding a mountain bike.
Wow.
Yeah, went right over the handlebars and broke the fall with my head. Might explain some things on big grand ideas I get. But that was the beginning and the end of my enlistment. But I knew that what a special thing that was if you exchange it via handshake, or you walk into a bar and you're the last one to put your coin down. And I said, this is the perfect environment for doing something like that as a token of appreciation. So anybody that runs the prior year will then get that challenge coin the next year. And it gives me one more opportunity to draw attention to the branch of the service that we are honoring. And so this year, the one side of the coin has the silhouette of a guard member of the Coast Guard kind of standing at the ready. And then the back side of the coin has a rescue swimmer swimming to the rescue of someone with the helicopter in the background.
Oh my gosh.
So it's, really, again, we have over 20 events each year, and 12 or 13 of which are owned, marketed, operated by us. And so I'm lucky enough, but then also have the flip side to the challenge of creating unique mementos that welcome people to the finish line. So whether that's a challenge coin as a token of appreciation, or a finisher medal, I got to get creative, because I know most people, they love to have their finisher medal. They love to do it for the bling. And so I've done some really cool ones for Battleship. Already thinking about what I'm doing next year, because we've got another branch of the service now, the Space Force.
Look at that.
next year we'll be honoring the Space Force, and then
and so we heard that here first. So
you heard that here first. Yep.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it's fun to do it. It's fun to have that opportunity to create something that you see people, sharing on Instagram and doing TikTok videos of that they love so much. I can say that in my early part of my design career, maybe I did some that weren't necessarily so great. So hey, everybody starts somewhere, and so luckily I've had a lucky streak of hitting some really good ones the last few years.
It's been so cool because along with starting this podcast, I've also been training a group with Fleet Feet, the Battleship 12K Fleet Feet Stars and Stripes. So
very cool.
There are some people that this will be their first ever race. And so a 12K, why not? Sure. And then there's other people that have come back from running, from having years off for whatever reason here and there. And so it's just been such a cool thing because one of the first things I told them was, one, the medal is awesome. I'm like, you wear it around Mobile all day long that Sunday. And then of course, like the t-shirts, like right now I'm wearing the Army t-shirt from last year.
I saw the green. Yep.
So I love just everything about the race, and of course, like you said, that first mile, it's all downhill, you'll PR, you're like, hey, look at this. I didn't even know I could run this fast, but it's so much fun talking about such a great race that, I've already learned so much about it just from talking with you. So I cannot wait for people to listen, whether it's right before the race, weekend, which is coming up in 2 weeks. Like, that's crazy.
Yep. It's staring us down. Thankfully, Mother Nature has delivered a smidgen of fall. We had a string of 5 weeks of events, during which span we produced 10 events across 3 states. As I said, 8 of those were for St. Jude. So it was great to be able to work with such an amazing organization. And then we had our event over here in Mandeville, the North Shore Half Marathon. And then we crossed the Huey P. Long Bridge and going over the Mississippi. And each morning, thankfully, it wasn't South Louisiana or South Gulf Coast type temperatures. We actually got a little bit of fall. And so if things continue on this trend, in 2 weeks, we should have another beautiful morning for the now Publix Battleship 12K.
Wow.
So I have to give a big shout out to Publix.
Absolutely.
They reached out to us. There's a member of the Publix team who is former military.
Wow.
And she saw what we were doing, and she said, this mission, this purpose, what you guys are doing is amazing. And being former military, I want to support this. And so we're very happy to have them on as a title sponsor. And it's really helped us out in being able to get the word out even more. Sure. Because obviously, anytime you are producing an event, you want to have more participation because that means you have more resources to do other great things. But for every person that gets added into the overall participation field, that's one more person that maybe during the registration process is going to make a contribution to Team RWB, America's Warrior Partnership, or Mission 22. So it really is a great opportunity to be able to spread their mission, spread what they're about. Hopefully there's a veteran or a family member of a veteran who hears what we're doing, what we're talking about, and the mission and the message that we're spreading. And somebody who maybe was having a hard time post-deployment, post-combat, post-military service hears the resources that they didn't know anything about and reaches out to one of those 3 organizations. So it's an honor and a privilege to me to be able to help our military community. And if we save one more life, then mission accomplished and day well done. But I'm not satisfied with just one. I want to make sure we're impacting a lot of people.
Wow. Mike, I'm blown away. Thank you for all that you're doing with Battleship 12K and for bringing it to Mobile, and for us as a community to have the opportunity to run for those who can't be there, but then also to thank those that are there. And I can't even begin to describe what it's like to be handed that flag at the entrance of the Battleship 12K and to run in. It means something every year. So I just thank you for everything that you've done and for taking time out of your day to talk to me. So,
Thank you for the opportunity. One of the things that I did want to mention before we go, because if people get a chance to listen to this before the event, as Fresh Junkie Racing, We're all athletes, participate in various endurance events, strength training, always trying to stay moving. In fact, one of my business partners just completed the Ironman Chattanooga a few weeks ago. And so we know what is, or we think we know what is important to us as athletes and us as participants. And so we're always trying to improve that and raise the game. And so at the North Shore Half Marathon a few weeks ago, we were able to roll out some new things. And at Battleship, we're going to be rolling out a few more new things.
Woo!
So we've got a couple of surprises up our sleeve, but yeah, don't want to make any promises just in case something doesn't come together. I didn't make any promises before North Shore. I was able to just go back afterwards and say, did you see? Like, for example, we have a new photo booth. So people can, obviously, everybody's got a phone and can take pictures, but you can take a look at the pictures on the photo booth free of charge. We started doing finish line video. So in addition to your finisher certificate and your finish line photos, which are all free, now you'll get a 10-second video clip of you crossing the finish line.
Get out of here.
Yep.
It's so cool.
We've got the name backdrop, which we've done for a number of years. Battleship is, for those people who don't know, the whole name concept actually started on the back of the shirt. The very first year, I took everybody who had been pre-registered for the event and managed to get all of their names on the back of the t-shirt. Mm-hmm. Well, that quickly went away because I'd need a t-shirt that was in quadruple X to even get close, So we put it onto the backdrop. And anybody that's listening and wants to see their name 2 weeks from now, sign up before this Friday because I got to send it to print at some point. So sign up early before the race week prices kick in next Monday night. Sign up before this weekend and you'll find your name on the backdrop at the Battleship 12K. So, and being able to move into the Daphne Civic Center has given us even a better opportunity for interaction, better opportunity for our sponsors, partners to be there, to talk to people, and just an overall better experience to take a look at the official merch, walk through, get your packet, all of those sort of things. We're very appreciative of the places that hosted us, but we very quickly outgrew the Courtyard by Marriott that first year.
You did, yeah.
It was a quick growth curve. So, yeah, there'll be a lot of cool things coming in 2 Sundays from now. So, yeah.
That's so exciting.
Yes.
Yay. Awesome. Thanks again, man. And I'll see you in 2 weeks. So
right.
I'm stoked. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, as I said, anybody that hadn't signed up, go to battleship12k.com. Get signed up. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube Shorts, TikTok. In fact, Battleship Medal on TikTok is our most popular video thus far.
Wow.
So, yeah. So we're getting out there, getting into all kinds of different platforms.
That is so cool. Man, thanks you for
again.
everything.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks.
All right. Talk to you soon. Thanks.
All right. Sounds good. Bye.
Bye-bye.
What a conversation with Mike in the Battleship 12K. And now his story is a part of you guys. So carry it with you when you hit the pavement. If you haven't already signed up, guys, for Battleship 12K, whether you're going to walk it, ruck it, run it, whatever you're doing, if you haven't signed up, stop what you're doing and go sign up now because it is a fantastic race and you don't want to miss it. And remember to run your story because every story needs to be heard.